Hello there.
Gamer.
Welcome back to the Fear Podcast. Where are you going?
I'm getting the lightsaber just in case.
Just in case. Alright, I'm gonna get my cup of water for when I get really heated.
We had a heated gamer moment. Alright. Hello there, Pennywisens and Bobadookers.
Oh God, can we not do this every time?
Vengeful seagull gods of all ages. I'm trying to be inclusive.
To the seagull gods in our audience.
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the Fear Podcast. Hold on, I should probably get my phone in case I need to Google some random trivial fact about movies. Yes, welcome back to the podcast.
Fear Podcast.
Camera's a little.
For those of you who might be new viewers to this our second episode of the podcast.
My name is Coleman. This is my YouTube channel, so I would hope you know who I am. At least that is at the time we're uploading this. This is my glorious friend, Kirk.
I'm Kirk. You may know me from your nightmares of the swirling chaotic mass. That's me.
Yeah.
The swirling mass of chaos that lives underneath your bed.
So today we once again have 3 movies. 2 of which probably no one in the audience has ever seen. Yeah,
we have
go through
3 movies for you that we're going to review today.
Yes.
We have Wizards, an animated movie by Ralph Bakshi from the late 70s. Gunhed, a movie that I'm certain none of you have heard of. It's a Japanese movie from the late 80s. It's kind of like Aliens meets Terminator, but
bad and boring.
We'll get into that later. And the Dark Crystal,
which may be the one.
Probably the one.
If you've seen any of these, you've
probably
seen
this
one. There was a Netflix show in the same universe recently.
Yeah.
So
it's a fantasy movie.
Jim Henson puppet fantasy, high fantasy puppet movie.
High fantasy puppet movie by Henson and Frank Oz.
Yes.
Hence why Oz is labeled as director.
Yes.
Even though this was more of a passion project for Jim.
Yes.
Oh well.
Yeah. But before
we get into the actual movies,
into the big 3, let's talk about 2019, the movies which spawned 2019's most cursed movie trailers.
Oh boy.
Cats and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh my God.
First off, cats. That's why we need our heated gamer water for when we get. Now I don't know. When did you see Cats?
I saw Cats over Christmas break.
As well as I did. I
think I saw Cats either on Christmas or the day after Christmas.
You poor soul. I saw Cats like a few days before I moved down to Austin for school. So like early January.
Oh man.
And I posted on my Instagram a sick picture of Jason Derulo cat being very Jason Derulo-y, and I said review coming soon for Cats, and then I never made a review. So this is
Rum-Tum Tiger.
Was that his name?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I now know all of the cats' names because I've been indoctrinated into the madness.
So
if you wanna know my thoughts on the Cats movie, I made a lengthy Instagram post. Like I do all of my posts.
Plug your Instagram.
My Instagram is at _Captain_Kirk. Captain is spelled with a K.
Well, as in K. Rool.
Yeah, like
Kirk.
Like
you're
the K. Rool.
You're basically the humanized form of K. Rool.
Oh, I don't like that. I don't know if I like that.
If I drew fan art of human K. Rool and gave him a lot of facial hair, I feel like
human K. Rool would have a lot of facial hair though.
Yes.
Despite the fact that he is in fact a lizard.
Yes. But anyway, Cats. I don't know about what your screening was like, but when I saw it, the movie had already been out for a little bit, so everybody knew how trash it was.
Oh, I went into this knowing it was trash.
I mean, I think everybody knew just from the trailers, but I don't know if you've ever gone and seen Rocky Horror Picture Show or like The Room in a movie theater. Any of those movie theater experiences where everybody
you have to go to the movie to watch it.
Yes, and it's like everybody's just there to riff. That's basically what happened with my Cats showing. I show up and I'm like, me and my friends are like, okay, what seats are taken? And the only seats is basically the entire back row. And I'm like, an entire group of people sitting in the back row together. I get the feeling they're not here to appreciate the musical marvel of Cats. And we go into the theater and they're like talking up there during the previews, and then the Universal logo shows up and they're like singing along to the jingle. Da, 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 da. I think that's 20th Century Fox, but who cares? Is it? I don't know.
It's the ba 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 da da bum bum.
Yeah, that's 20th Century Fox. The one I was singing was Universal. Or
that's 20th Century. The one you were singing was 20th Century.
Okay.
The Universal one is the one with the drums.
So they're up there singing along, and then like one song happens and somebody's like, "Can we leave now?" So that I knew the whole group in the back was there to like shit.
They were hostage. They were held hostage by Cats, not allowed to leave until they deemed it worthy.
It was an interesting theater experience because I didn't have to worry about like making too much noise or whatever. It was just like take it in. Just take it in. You can react with "Oh God" as much as you want.
Fear.
Was your movie-going experience like this? Or
my movie-going experience. There were some jeers, there were some laughs, there was some singing along. My movie-going experience involved a lot of alcohol.
Oh yes. See, I went in sober, so
you see that's the problem.
How much do you remember? I do remember all the Cats' names.
I remember it didn't have a plot.
No, there's no plot.
Do not think that just because they added a cat specifically to give this movie a plot,
yes,
that this movie actually has a plot.
It's basically added to be like the audience surrogate, but no,
it still doesn't have a plot.
Yes,
they tried hard to give it a plot and they failed. I give it an F.
The original musical and the movie have zero plot. They're basically just like, hello, I'm a cat. I'm Jason Derulo cat, and I'm singing a song about myself.
I have a weird bodysuit on that makes me that you can't tell if I am more human or more cat.
Never was there ever.
That was
probably so clever as magical Mr.
That was probably like the best number though.
Probably, well, I mean, except like the emotional ballad number that wasn't just I'm a cat. Hello, I'm a cat.
Maybe I'm just like that does nothing for me because
the problem with that number is. Every time that character, so the Jennifer Hudson character, whatever her cat's name was, every time she shows up, the movie does like a tonal 180 and stops trying to be like fun and starts trying to be like a serious musical. And
lots of close-ups on her face. Her horrible CGI cat face.
I will say
she has probably the best CGI
They improved the CGI on her a lot between the movie and the first trailer. In the first trailer, she had some of the worst CGI of any of them, and it was like, it was unfinished. Like, I mean, the whole movie's unfinished. The whole movie's
still unfinished.
But her in the first trailer literally looked like a deep fake.
Oh, man. Like, and going from the best song, the worst song is probably the Rebel Wilson song with those ever changing the ever changing size scale where these cats are like large enough that they can like hold a mouse in their paw.
Oh yes, that was peak fear because
and cockroaches are like the size of
because it's not just the cats that have creepy human morph bodies. The mice and the cockroaches in that song
are probably the worst.
Oh god.
The cockroaches are like the size of the mouse in this movie.
Yes.
And the mouse can fit in the person's hand.
And the cats just eat the mice and cockroaches sometimes. And everybody has a human face. So it's very like existentially disturbing.
It makes you wonder what a dog would look like in this universe.
Oh god.
Or any other animal.
Yeah, it leads down to a whole I was expecting a lot of fear in cats, but the one thing that I got that I was not expecting was other animals in the horrifying cat's CGI design. And That was probably peak fear.
Very much so.
I think the ironic entertainment value for me pretty much ended after the scene where James Corden shows up and he's playing
the fat cat.
The fat cat. I feel like his
name
I don't
remember
his fat cat or something.
It was like
and he sings a whole ass song that literally ends in him and all the other cats rummaging through trash, eating it and throwing it behind them.
Eating literal garbage.
Yes, and
it looks like literal garbage.
And yes, and I just turned to my friend and I'm like, if this doesn't sum up the entire movie, this shot of James Corden shoveling trash into his face while he throws other trash behind him for other cat monstrosities to eat, nothing does.
While his CGI belly jiggles and bounces.
God. That song also like stops at one point for him to deliver a classic James Corden comedy bit, which of course isn't funny because it's James
Corden witty dialogues in his way into Smash.
Oh god. Oh god.
Oh god.
I really, really hate James Corden. I'm like he's not funny.
I feel bad for the 500 different. I feel bad for the 20 big A-list celebrities that they roped into this movie.
Oh god. Well, of course James Corden and Rebel Wilson are this movie's idea of comedic relief.
Absolutely.
Possibly the worst two picks, but here we are. I was telling my friends this, Hollywood every couple years they pick a new
funny man and then they run them into the ground.
No, they pick a new for women specifically, and this is a shame. Every couple years they pick a new overweight woman to have be the new comedic fat female comedian. And then they run them into the ground and then pick a new one. First there was Amy Schumer, and then Melissa McCarthy, and now Rebel Wilson is the new one. Hollywood does not allow themselves to have more than one fat actress.
Hollywood says no fatties allowed unless you're a comedian.
Yeah.
In which case, only one.
Only one.
We're only taking one whatever at the time.
Yeah.
One selection at the time.
It's really bad.
It's not great.
But I think after James Corden's scene, there was a distinct feeling for me that boring. There was a feeling that I'm like, I don't think anything else in the movie is going to top anything I've seen so far. And I think the next song after that was these two alley cats or whatever. That was
Rumple Teaser and Mungo Jerry.
Yes, that's where I went to the bathroom.
That's where I went to the bathroom. That was probably the best song
because
of the movie,
it wasn't celebrities singing it. And I was like, you know what? The ironic value dies at that point.
I actually kind of like that number, but I was also dead earlier in the movie.
Yes.
So it was hard. It was that gave me a little bit of energy.
Yeah, I'm not even necessarily commentating on the quality of that number. I'm just saying that the ironic value goes away at that point, and then comes back at the end for a little bit when Taylor Swift shows up.
Oh my god, Taylor Swift with
Idris
her weird...
Elba's sexy cat henchman.
Weirdly sexual cat henchman.
Yeah.
She's got one singular cat boob that jiggles and bounces around.
Well, and then...
she's a fucking anime character.
And then Idris Elba joins her.
Oh, that was the moment when I said fear.
Yeah, that's very fear.
Because he has this skin tight, barely any fur on it.
Well, okay, and it sucks
cat bodysuit.
Because every other scene before that, he's wearing a coat and a hat and this stuff. So he's the least terrifying of the cats.
Even though he's supposed to be the villain.
Yeah. Well, okay, I also really liked him in the movie because I felt he
was hamming it up.
He was the only actor aware of how stupid the movie was, I feel. All the others were really, really... Ian McKellen and...
Ian McKellen looks like...
Ian McKellen was trying so hard and I felt so bad for it.
Yeah, Ian McKellen looks like they said you're not getting off of the set until you give us a real performance.
He looks miserable. He looks like he's trying so hard, but he just seems miserable, like he's about to die.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Ian McKellen has never felt so old.
And then Helen Mirren has like probably
was that Helen Mirren?
I don't know.
I don't.
Whoever she is.
Whoever Angela Lansbury, whatever.
She has the worst CGI of them all.
Yeah, and she was also trying way too hard.
Her face is just like it's a cat body, and then her face is.
She's also the one I feel like they
CGI layered onto it.
She's the one I feel like they finished the least because in certain shots you can see her wedding ring, like the actress's wedding ring. So they just like did not like she is the least finished of the CG stuff.
I'm a little bothered by the fact that our main character has like really prominent red lips when like they're cats.
Yeah,
and cats don't really have prominent lips.
Oh, you know who else was trying way too hard? Jason Derulo. Why was he trying so hard? He's not an actor.
He was trying so hard for this bit part.
To like be like, he was trying so hard to like be like an actual sexy cat.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh man.
But it's like Idris Elba was actually. I was enjoying him when he would pop up in the early parts of the movie because he was wearing clothes, so he wasn't terrifying.
Yet
his acting was hammy, was the appropriate level of hammy for the stupid movie he's in, and like he was also like taking all the most annoying characters and plopping them into a side story.
Right.
So like that helped. Like right after, I'm sure we're not.
Yeah, no,
we're close to.
Yeah, we got we're at 16 minutes.
Yeah, but it's like right after James Corden's song, Idris Elba shows up and kidnaps him. So it's like, cool, he's not in the movie anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like I was rooting for him, and then he shows up with the outfit gone, and he goes from being the least terrifying
to the
cat
most
creation
terrifying.
to the most terrifying. It feels like you're watching. I think especially because he had clothes on earlier, so you have a comparison point. It feels like you're watching him dance around naked.
Yeah.
With also naked
without any like genitalia or like body definition.
Fear.
Which only makes it more terrifying because you know it's supposed to be there, but it's not.
Yep. Fear. And then, so that, I don't really remember what happened in the movie after that point.
He kidnaps the main lady, Magical Mr. Mistopheles.
Magical Mr. Mistopheles saves them.
And then they
never was there. Yeah.
And then they sacrifice Jennifer Hudson cat to their weird
she's the Jellicle
heavy-side glare cult.
They have they talk about Jellicle cats the whole time, but they never even attempt to explain what a Jellicle is.
I watched an interview on it because I went to an Alamo Draft House and they made us watch one. A Jellicle cat originally just meant any cat that is like pure black, pure white, or a mix of black and white.
All right.
And then
they do not explain that at all.
And then in Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical, he just decided it to be any cat is a Jellicle cat.
Okay, so they're all Jellicle cats.
Yes.
Then why was there all this bullshit about? Oh well, the lead character's not a Jellicle cat. We gotta indoctrinate her into the Jellicle cult.
To be a Jellicle cat, you have to believe you're a Jellicle cat. And the problem is, she didn't believe she was a Jellicle cat.
Well, I don't believe that this movie exists. I still don't believe.
And yet they still keep in the line about Jellicle cats needing to be black or white.
They do. I didn't notice that. I was probably zoned out.
They talk so much about Jellicle cats.
They really do. They're like, Jellicle cat. Jellicle cats have Jellicles too.
There's at least 3 different full numbers just about being Jellicle cats. And they never explain what a Jellicle cat is.
I just kept turning to my friends and going, what the fuck is a Jellicle? What the fuck is a Jellicle? I probably said that like 5 times. Even at the very end of the movie.
The movie is the most insane thing ever.
Oh my god, the last scene. So they're sending Jennifer Hudson into the sky, and then after they do that, you're like, okay, it's over now. It's over, right?
And then,
please end.
And then
Helen Mirren or whoever.
She turns to face the audience.
She turns to the camera and just starts singing her own song that climaxes in the line, "A cat is not a dog." And then she sings, "A cat is not a dog," like 10 more times. And at this point, I'm leaning forward in my chair like, end, movie, end! Why is this still happening? What is going on? The last number just keeps going. And then I think the last line is like, "A cat is not a dog" again, or something.
It is insane.
And I'm just like,
And then it ends with like them all like on their either on their hindquarters or like rearing up, tails wagging. There's a weird sexual energy throughout the entire movie. Fear, 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 fear. You know what movie didn't inspire fear though?
Not as much as I was expecting anyway.
Scary movie.
I thought you were gonna say Sonic the Hedgehog 2020.
No, Sonic the Hedgehog has its own brand.
Sonic the Hedgehog has its own moments of fear. Let's talk about that one.
Let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog.
We shouldn't have quite as much horrifying things to say about that.
I've already given a post about it. He's already given a post about it.
Did I post about it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
We talked about how Dr. Eggman has definitely committed war crimes.
Yes, Dr. Robotnik. Okay, so this movie is like the more I think about it, the more I enjoy it, which is not something I expected to ever say about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Yeah.
It's probably the best. It's easily the best use of the fictional character comes to real world and goes on crazy hijinks with human character stories.
Absolutely. Like think like Alvin and the Chipmunks,
the Smurfs.
Let's see, Hop,
except Hop,
Yogi Bear, basically any live action cartoon.
Sonic the Hedgehog easily outshines all of those.
Although that's also
that being said, that is a very, very low bar.
Yeah, I would say that this movie is okay, verging on good. It's not great. It's not terrible. It could have easily slid into terrible.
If they kept the old design, it would be terrible. Because a lot of the movie is riding on like Sonic as a character
and whether or not you actually
with James Marsden
and whether or not you actually sympathize with him.
Yes, and if he looks terrifying,
so much harder to sympathize with a creepy, uncanny valley looking Sonic.
Yeah,
as opposed to the more cartoony.
I think they did a pretty good job capturing Sonic in this movie. He's not like.
Yeah.
You know.
How long is it?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay.
Where is it?
I thought it was 21 minutes.
Oh, okay.
We got time.
He's not like a fully fledged, fully developed Sonic. He's a child Sonic.
Yeah.
And I like the movie finds a way to have it kind of finds a way to have its cake and eat it too, because it plops him into the real world like movies like Smurfs or whatever.
But also hasn't
been there for long enough that he can make pop culture references.
And that's also a good way of explaining why his pop culture references
are sometimes really bad.
Because he's only ever learned pop culture via osmosis from like watching the screen of the main character.
There are a lot of zingers in this movie.
And like
I'd say half of them are like maybe 25% are great, half are good, and then like 25% are just eh. Like, and even the ones that are like barely, like not really good zingers are passable because none of the actors are phoning it in.
Yeah.
Even like the human...
Everyone is trying their hardest. And Jim Carrey is trying especially hard.
Oh, yes. Even the human character that is Sonic's friend, who normally that's like the most boring character in these kinds of movies.
Yeah.
But James Marsden actually had like legitimate chemistry with Sonic and with his wife character.
So you actually kind of like...
so you like the humans enough.
You actually see them... You like them enough that you actually want to see them like manage to get out of this unscathed.
And you don't mind that they're... And the movie doesn't spend too much time on them.
No.
So I never found myself being like, oh god, these human characters are so boring. Please go back to Sonic.
Which would have been hilarious if they had had original song.
Please go back to Sonic. Wait,
no, I'll take it back.
In that universe, we'd just be asking for the movie to go back to Jim Carrey at all times.
Yeah,
because Jim Carrey is easily the standout of this.
He's giving it all, but he's also not giving a single fuck.
Yes, it's like insane 90s Jim Carrey energy, but I feel like it's slightly different in that he puts a little bit of a, like, usually 90s crazy
he puts a more menacing edge on it.
Yes, he puts a more menacing edge on it. He amplifies because there's always a certain element of douchiness to his crazy characters.
Yeah.
But with this, I feel like And some of it works because he's older.
Yeah.
Like, I think if this were a 90s Jim Carrey in his, like, 30s, it would be harder to buy him.
Because you kind of like the fact that he's kind of going against what's normal.
Yes.
But and there's also, like, this understanding that, like, his characters often don't exist in reality.
Yeah.
But Eggman does exist in reality. He just doesn't seem to care.
He just doesn't give a fuck that, like, about what anybody else's concepts for reality are. He's like, I'm gonna do what I want. And he just, like, shitposts all over all the characters that he interacts. He has great, like, even the introduction for him is good. The militaries are like, should we call him in? And the other guy in the room's like, no, he's a loose cannon, sir. And then the head guy's like, remember the this is one of my favorite ones. Like, remember the insurrection in Azerbaijanistan? And then another guy goes, that's not a country. And
they're like,
the head guy goes, exactly.
Which is what led us to the belief that
Robotnik has canonically stopped rebellions and committed war crimes in the name of the
We don't know how many people's revolutions he has silenced before they were able to actually take off. But we know it is a non-zero number.
Exactly. We know it is a non-zero number.
Robotnik would definitely say that, would definitely support China over Hong Kong, is what we're saying. Yes, he's a very much an establishment figure.
It's very entertaining how he takes that. There are some, like, if anybody in the movie is delivering lines that are like, because outside of him, I feel like the movie goes for very much a kids movie level of, like, vibe and presentation.
Very much so.
More so than, like, Detective Pikachu did, although that one had elements of, but it's like, it goes for a very kids movie presentation. If anybody in there is making a joke that is, like, a little bit risque or on the edge, it's Jim Carrey making some, like dirty illusion
illusion.
Or even, it's not necessarily that many dirty jokes. He just says some really weird quips that, like, are like, what?
You, like, make you think, oh, this guy's murdered people.
Yes, exactly. But I've seen people saying that it's, like, classic Jim Carrey, and it is classic Jim Carrey, but I feel like there's just enough of a new twist on it.
Yeah, it's
not just a repeat.
It's like kind of like classic. Yeah, it's kind of like classic Jim Carrey, but sort of with that, like, Larry the Cable.
The Cable Guy. It's like it's like how he becomes in the second half of the Cable Guy when he goes full.
When he goes
full, like, psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a little more cartoony.
Yeah. The best way I would describe this movie is that it's very much feels like a 90s movie in the year 2020.
Yes.
And in all the good and bad ways.
I feel like it's a 90s movie, but I feel like this movie would have been much worse if it came out in the 90s. I feel like it being out now...
I think the problem would be is that it wouldn't stand out if it came out in the 90s. It would feel like everything else at the time.
Yeah. And I do feel like there are some kinks worked out compared to a lot of those I mean, not that it's perfect. There are a lot of quips that don't.
There's really a lot of joke. Like when the movie is on fire, it is really on fire. When it fails, it really fails.
I mean,
let me say it like this. Like the duds, the problem with the problem with Jim Carrey, especially 90s Jim Carrey, is that, like, when he's funny, it's great. When he's not, it feels like 20 minutes of fart jokes and agonizing torture.
True, but what I will say is I don't think there's anything in the movie that was, like, long enough for me to really be...
It's not long enough to be painful.
As befitting of a movie about Sonic the Hedgehog, the pacing is very fast.
Yeah.
So when you get into parts that lull, like, and this is what I've seen from practically every review, the entire section where they're hanging out in the bar in the middle of the movie, that is a huge lull, but that's probably the longest lull, and I'd say it's maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and even that has moments of fun. They do the Quicksilver X-Men Days of Future Past thing a couple times.
They do it pretty well, actually.
Yeah, they do it pretty well. It's not their fault that it's a thing we've seen.
It's not their fault that it's been the most overused way of displaying speed since Quicksilver.
I do like the fact that the first time they do it, nothing can stop him, and the second time they do it, there's the little twist of Eggman.
Yeah, Eggman is able to use it.
Because he got one of Sonic's quills to like.
Also, Sonic goes like not quite supersonic. He goes like Super Saiyan 2.
Yeah,
basically.
I like the third act a lot.
Yeah.
Pretty much from when they encounter Robotnik on the tower, the movie never slows down from that point.
That's when the movie really...
Because they're jumping through rings and like teleporting to places, and it's fun.
You can easily see like them using the rings as like a setup in a future sequel.
Yes, and they definitely hard tease future sequels. There's a scene where Robotnik is stranded on another world, and he's like full bald Robotnik. Oh, also, I didn't realize this until my friend pointed out later. He's talking to that rock in that scene, Castaway style. That's supposed to be like his recreation of his assistant, whose name is Dr. Stone.
Oh, man. That's what I mean when this movie is like, there's moments of brilliance and stupidity. It has often the same scene.
Yes, and it has some cringe-worthy stuff, but you kind of... I feel like it's fitting of the Sonic series as a whole, which can be very cool sometimes, but also very cringy at other times.
Just look at anything from like Sonic from the end of Sonic Adventure 2 onward.
Yeah, and the movie it has those cringy moments, but you kind of accept it because it's Sonic.
Considering that this is Sonic the Hedgehog, this could have turned out much worse.
And we saw a glimpse of the timeline in which it would have turned out much worse.
We got a peek into the alternate timeline where Sonic rejects his humanity, dons the stone mask, and becomes a Pillarman.
The sexual tension between Dr. Robotnik and his assistant, Dr. Stone.
I thought you were going to talk about the sexual tension between Jason Moranis and Sonic.
That is not his name.
Jason Marsden?
It's James Marsden.
James Marsden in Sonic the Hedgehog.
I mean, there's a little bit there, but like Dr. Robotnik and the assistant. At one point, Dr. Robotnik tells the assistant, "Pin yourself to the wall," and then he
pins himself to the wall.
And then so Robotnik can yell at him.
Mounts him and yells at him.
There's also this joke is. I hate that this joke was in the trailer
because it was actually
one of the best in the movie. Jim Carrey's doing his villain dance. And then Dr. Stone walks up to him with like a latte, and he like scares him, and Jim Carrey's like, "Ah!" And he's like, I got you a latte, and Jim Carrey just yells, "Of course I want a latte! I love the way you make them!"
Jim Carrey definitely tops in that relationship.
Yeah, serious like dominant energy from
very
much
his
assistant. But like that line, it's definitely like canon that's because part of his character is he just like hates everybody and thinks everybody's an idiot. But I feel like Dr. Stone is the only person he would like go to bat for.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't admit it, even if he won't.
Even if he wouldn't admit it, yeah.
Like there's a bit of a complex character dynamic there.
There is something.
Yes, and there's also a mid-credits tease that also teases sequels. Back to what I was talking about with sequels.
With Tails,
right? I mean, I guess we can just share it. It doesn't
matter.
Spoilers.
Tails is in the movie.
Yes, Tails shows up in the mid-credits scene.
The Sonic Cinematic Universe?
And I wouldn't even count the scene with Robotnik looking like Robotnik as a spoiler because
they literally put it in the first trailer.
And everybody saw that first trailer and was like, that's an end of the movie.
That is an end credits
tease. It's right before the credits. And then mid-credits there's a Tails tease, which is unexpected, I will say.
I'll say, a little unexpected. I could have definitely seen them doing that in the first movie, but like it being like a Skeletor thing where it leads to nothing because nobody watched it. But people were actually watching this movie, so it might actually lead to something.
Yes, thank God they changed the design, or that would just be a tease that leads to nothing, probably. We'd also see a horrifying, monstrous design of Tails, too, probably.
It would probably look like that taxidermied fox.
But yes, I'm glad to say that Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 is pretty good and not as cursed as we all thought it would be. Which, depending on what you were going to see, that may be a downside.
If you're the type of person who likes trash fires, I'm sad to say that this movie isn't for you. It's not a trash fire.
But I'd also say that it's like good enough that it's good enough and it has those moments enough that you can still there's still a nice mix of ironic enjoyment and genuine enjoyment coming from this movie.
Definitely.
And I feel like the next one
it's going to be more genuine.
It's going to be more genuine enjoyment because I feel like this was a
launching point.
They couldn't get the budget to go full Sonic World.
They're probably going to go full Sonic World next time, or at the very least, more leaning on Sonic World.
There will be some Earth part, because Tails shows up to Earth.
My guess is that like they're going to start doing like world hopping things in the next episode.
Which honestly makes sense, because like Sonic as a series sometimes takes place on Earth,
but also sometimes takes place on weird Sonic furry world. Oh, we should also mention there's a scene we don't ever actually see Sonic's feet, but there's a scene.
There's a scene where he takes off his shoes
close.
And he's got some socks and
he's got socks with holes in them, and we almost get the most cursed image of all: Sonic feet.
All right, so now I think we've talked about cats and Sonic.
Speaking of cursed,
scary movie.
This is a movie that I found while we were getting movies for.
Okay, so I make this clear for me, because I actually wasn't with you when you were renting the movies for this weekend. Is this like the parody scary movie?
No, it wishes it was the parody.
Okay, then what the hell is this?
This is a 1991 haunted house horror movie.
Sponsored by Dairy Queen.
Called Scary Movie.
And so it's actually attempting to be a scary movie.
I guess so. I think your phone's...
Oh, my mom's calling me.
You talk about this movie all.
Alright, this movie is basically like an independent movie. It's not really like big budget or anything, and you can really tell. It's got very bad video quality transfer. It's like pretty abysmal. Like, it's not terrible, but that's kind of the problem, is that it's very mediocre and bland. And the biggest problem is that it's not scary. I'll go over this. So the whole plot is our main character, who's this very wimpy kid, not very used to scary things, is going to a haunted house with his friends. But he thinks he's fun. But he heard over the news report that a serial killer broke out of police custody, and they think that he thinks that the serial killer might have gotten out into the haunted house. So, yeah, scary movie. It's about a guy who thinks there's a serial killer in a haunted house. He's a very wimpy kid, and the biggest problem with this movie is probably that the haunted house is not scary. Because the whole movie is riding on the fact that this wimpy kid thinks that this haunted house, which is supposed to be very scary, has a serial killer in it, and that he is slowly losing his sanity as a result. So much so that
Why is he in this house? I don't know.
He's just going out. He's going out like on a night of fun with his friends.
Okay.
His friends who constantly bully and belittle him.
Cool. That sounds about right for a 90s like horror.
I wish I could say it was like that, but none of them have any chemistry or intrigue or personality or actual fun or passion put into their performances. Every character in this movie is a plank of wood.
Even the lead?
Especially the lead.
Oh boy.
He is the most plank of wood. When he is not
planks of wood, rise up.
When he is not a plank of wood, he is a scaredy cat. He is the biggest fucking wimp I have ever seen in a movie.
Oh,
Is
this him? The pic you sent me?
Yes.
Okay. This is all the context I got. He sent me this like a few days ago.
That is like the final image of the movie. Is him whimpering in a fake grave, holding a gun, about to shoot the sheriff, who came in to check to make sure everyone got out of the haunted house because because this kid started running around saying there was a killer in there, and it freaked everybody out, and so they had to evacuate. What?
The last thing you sent me before that. Don't worry about it. It's not
memes. Okay. The biggest problem, obviously, is that the haunted house is not scary, because without this haunted house being scary, you cannot believe that the kid is actually going insane because the haunted house looks so cheap and it looks so bad.
The whole movie is probably pretty cheap. Right?
It's all pretty cheap. It's like an indie movie. Yeah. But I've sseen indie movies
that are good.
They're way better than this. Yeah. I've seen movies that are like, I've seen big and like, budget isn't everything. This movie could have been a perfect example of that, where like you have just a solid idea. Kid goes insane because of the fear he experiences in a haunted house. Thinks he sees a killer, ends up becoming the killer himself, as an act of self-defense. That's a pretty solid idea for a horror movie.
Yeah.
But this movie executes it so poorly that you genuinely can't tell, and that you genuinely think like the kid just like that the people in the costumes are meant to just be like bad actors actually trying to kill the kid.
Are these like Scorpion and the Adventures of Captain Marvel level bad?
Yes.
Wow. All right.
And this is in 1990.
Yeah.
Like these are the blood effects, the gore effects are like pathetic. This is a movie, like, I'm not someone who, like, needs gore in a horror movie.
Right.
But if you can't offer me scares, if you can't offer me interesting characters...
If you can't offer me anything else.
If you can't offer me anything else, and you don't even have blood...
Gore me up!
And if you don't even have blood and guts, what are you offering me? And the answer is nothing. This movie offers you nothing.
Does it work in an ironic sense as a, like... unintentional parody of horror movies?
No, because no one puts enough energy into it to actually make it funny.
So I'd be better off watching the parody
You would be better off watching the actual parody scary movie,
which is way more known than this.
That is actually a better horror movie than this. I'm not even joking.
All right.
They do a better job of setting up the scares that they obviously satirize and subvert your expectations on than they do in this movie.
So in terms of exorcising this movie, you would say that there is a demon in there, but it's too scary. It's not scary enough to be worth exorcising.
There's a demon in here, but it is too weak and pathetic for me to bother exorcising.
It's in there whimpering like, I want out.
It's whimpering like the main character.
Whimpering. All right. So now we shall talk about the big three. Our big three.
Which one do we want to start with?
Let's start with Wizards. Let's go in order of how we watched them. I feel like that's the most authentic way to...
Alright, so, first things first, we watched Wizards. This is a movie that I own. This wasn't actually something we got from the store. This is one of my... I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Bakshi movies or even my favorite adult-oriented movie. This is an adult animated feature from 1977.
See, you say adult, but then when we were watching it, you told me this was Ralph Bakshi's attempt to make a kid-friendly movie.
Just because it was an attempt to make a kid-friendly movie doesn't mean it's actually a kid-friendly movie.
It's rated PG, but it's 1977, so
it's 1977. That's 1977 PG, which means that because they don't say fuck, it's not that it can technically qualify for PG.
And I mean, compared to Ralph Bakshi's other movies, this is kid-friendly because the other ones are like X-rated or R-rated.
They're all either X-rated or R-rated, and most of them either deal with sex and fucking or gritty urban violence.
Yeah. Oh god.
Are you showing them the fairy tales?
Oh yes. Yeah. Well. This is one of the characters.
You can't quite see it well, but she's an elf.
I'll just find it.
She's a fairy who only wears like basically wears a sling bikini that covers nothing.
There she is.
And she has very pronounced nipples.
Yes. So.
And that's basically the character design for all of the women.
Yeah. So there's like to say it's kid friendly would be a stretch.
It's kid-friendly only by a technical definition that it is somehow considered a PG movie, and it is the least offensive of all of Ralph Bakshi's works.
Has he made live-action stuff, or is he just...
He is pretty much solely animation.
He's early adult animation.
He is like, he's the guy who directed the first widely distributed X-rated cartoon.
Film.
Cartoon. Yeah. And that was Fritz the Cat. In case you were wondering.
So this is probably... Would you say... I feel like this might be one of his lesser-known pictures?
I don't know. I think it's probably actually his best-known because this got pretty wide distribution.
Yeah, because it's not quite so adult as...
But it's probably one of his more...
It's one of his more uneven movies.
It's one of his more uneven.
This was probably the most interesting movie we watched of the day, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it was also the most, like... uneven.
It's
let's go into the world of this.
This is a post-apocalyptic fantasy setting where after a nuclear holocaust, all humanity has been mutated into either like freakish orcs and ogres and goblins,
or dwarves, elves,
and fairies.
Yeah, but like the way we just described it sounds simple. It is not. There is one commonality with all three movies with all the three main movies we watched for this podcast.
Heavy reliance on narration.
Yes, they all begin with an overly long narrational segment to set up the world. And
this one requires the most setup because it's got the weirdest world of the three.
Well, actually, I don't know if this had more setup or less than Gunhed because we weren't paying it like.
But this one is
this one has better.
This one has the better setup than Gunhed, which we'll talk about later, but that doesn't mean it's good setup.
No.
The narrator has a very...
She has this fairy tale.
She has this very... Which would work if this was like a classic Disney fairy tale.
But she talks for like the first 10 minutes and nobody else is talking, so
and it's not,
kind of like false.
And it is absolutely not that type of fairy tale.
There's also, a lot of like... Okay, so the time jumps. And so
the time jumps
So she starts out telling the story. Okay, nukes happened, Earth apocalypse.
Millions of years later, life has adapted to the nuclear fallout.
2 sections, mutant group and elf, dwarf, fairy group, the concept we said.
Yeah.
So then she tells us about this queen of the fairies who had these 2 children.
One grew up to be a good wizard, one grew up to be a bad wizard.
And they fought, and this is all in narration. We don't see them fight in the beginning.
Well, we see poorly drawn cutouts of them fighting.
I wouldn't say they were so much poorly drawn. They were more like minimally drawn.
They were very minimalistic, which is funny because this movie is not. I wouldn't really say.
This movie has a weird mix of minimalism at points
and like non-minimalist.
Really, I think the visual style of this movie is really interesting.
It's probably the best
we'll go
part
into
about
that
this
in a little
movie.
bit. But so then the 2 wizards have a battle. This is all in the opening narration, and then 3,000 years later, we get to the main story. So we have nukes in our world. Millions of years later, new civilization. Events happen to spur on these wizards. Then another 3,000 years later, we have where the movie is actually taking. So we have all these different time periods of setup, and it's just like, and they don't really set it up in an interesting way.
No.
There should have been at least one scene in the period where the 2 wizards were
like if we actually saw the events, like actually saw them animated, it would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
It's literally just narration.
It's narration over, drawings.
Thankfully, the whole movie isn't as boring as the opening narration.
It picks up pretty quick. It probably picks up once Peace arrives in town.
Yeah, Peace is an assassin sent to kill the good wizard.
He's the red guy on the cover, if you can see that.
The good wizard's name is Avatar.
Add that to another list of avatars.
Yeah, and the bad wizard's name is Black Wolf?
Black Wolf.
Black Wolf.
And you can tell he's evil because he was born with skeleton arms.
You can see their baby forms, and one of them's like, cute baby, and one of them's like, gremlin baby.
Also, Black Wolf is a literal Nazi.
Yes.
I don't mean in the sense that he has Nazi ideology
or that they occasionally use Nazi symbolism. But
no, they have literal swastikas. He's called a Führer, and he uses
actual Nazi propaganda footage
in order
to motivate his soldiers
and to demoralize the opponents.
That's actually the major thing that kind of spurs on the plot. Is they establish that he's been sending armies against Avatar and the other nations for years,
it's never worked.
And the armies always, this is a quote from the movie, they get bored or they do something else. But what finally gets the army going, I expected, the movie seemed for a little bit like it was building up to the fact that he was building a nuke or something.
Yeah.
But then at least as far as I could tell, that's actually not what he was doing. He just, found a projector with like old Hitler literal like Hitler World War II propaganda, like actual footage, not animated.
No.
And they play it, and it like
it turns his subjects into violent, like bloodthirsty maniacs, and it turns the opposing side into like terrified, traumatized, helpless victims.
He like overwhelms them in the battlefield, like playing it everywhere around them while the army's storming.
And it's kind of, I guess, implied also that like doing so makes it hard for them to separate fantasy from reality.
Yeah, to tell what's actually happening in the attack and what's just war footage.
There's also a big.
It's a little, that part's a little unclear because the visual presentation style of this movie is very like abstract avant-garde stuff. They have a lot of live action filmed sky backgrounds with drawn artwork.
And then they'll also sometimes have live action footage with drawings done on top of it.
They do this
not rotoscoping, which is what they do in classic Disney movies like Snow White, where they'll have a live action actor and then they'll use that as reference footage for the drawings. No, they physically have live action footage and then they draw over it.
Yes.
Which is actually a very interesting
It's very interesting because they primarily use it to show Black Wolf's armies approaching, which really adds to the sort of demonic, otherworldly sense from the armies, is that they're these strange, like, pseudo 3D black figures, just sort of advancing.
That kind of fade in and out of reality.
So the war scenes like that are really like visually impressive. It can be hard to tell what's going on in them, but it's because he goes for this very like interesting, abstract, fear-inducing presentation.
Unfortunately, that also leads to a bit of like visual contrast in a bad way, where it's like you have three different visual sort of elements at once. You'll have like cartoony character designs in the foreground. You'll have live action footage in the background, and then you'll have live action characters with drawings on top, being cut between.
Yeah, there's some jank to it.
When it works, it really works. When it doesn't, it's very
distracting. Yeah, and there's a lot of beautifully like hand drawn or painted scene backgrounds that are so much better than the animation of the characters moving through them that
feels very
noticeable.
Yeah,
it's so that
Black Wolf's castle specifically is very detailed.
Everything in the Black Wolf apocalyptic mutant area is like these backgrounds could be put up
gorgeous in its hideousness.
Work of arts.
It's very gorgeous in its hideousness.
Yeah. But then the characters are like sometimes at their worst they're animated at like Hanna-Barbera cartoon level.
Like two, if you're lucky, 3 more often than not frames of animation a second.
So anyway, the movie starts out with Black Wolf sending assassins to kill the leaders of the free world. One of them is Peace, the character on the front of the box art.
He assassinates the president, who is like in the village that Avatar lives in.
And then Avatar captures this assassin
and converts him into good. He basically
does he brainwash him? It's a little unclear.
It's a little unclear. It seems like he's basically instilling in him a hatred for violence.
Yes, and he names it. This movie is very anti-war.
It's very anti-war, and it's got a very strong technology versus magic and nature sentiment.
Black Wolf, despite being a wizard, uses tons of
He uses tanks. He uses planes. He uses technology. His big weapon is literally a product of technology.
Yes. Whereas Avatar is interesting because when I first saw him, I didn't think... You think heroic main wizard, and you think
like Gandalf, or like...
But he's he's more like the characters you like in
He feels like a side character.
Yes, like in an older Disney movie where you have the young handsome hero and the sort of tiny goofy wizard man.
Like he'd feel like one of the dwarves.
Yeah. He's like short and he has a big bushy beard. He's old. You get the sense he's kind of been on adventures a lot. And at first, that was throwing me off because I feel like for the first 20 to 30 minutes of the movie,
it was hard to tell who was the main character.
Yes,
and that made it hard to be invested.
There is a lot of world building in the first half hour of the movie, but very, very little character development at all.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, the first few scenes almost make it seem like Peace is the main character.
Because that's the one that gets the most
because
dynamic.
he gets the most screen time.
And he has the most
change.
The biggest character arc, because he goes from violent assassin to peace-loving android.
Yes, but as the movie goes on, they start to flesh out the characters. Avatar and his fairy, will they, won't they, pseudo-girlfriend.
Who actually have a pretty fun relationship.
Yes, they do. And
despite the way
this is the one
despite the way that she's drawn and the way he's drawn, they actually have a very good chemistry. They have very good chemistry and a very fun will they, won't they relationship.
Yeah. And, like, her character isn't just...
She isn't just fan service. She's actually pretty, she's pretty gung-ho.
Yeah.
Like, whenever they are about to go into a fight, she's, like, one of the first ones to draw her sword.
I would say by the time you get through the movie, you go from not caring about any of the main group that are on their quest to
actually caring about most of them.
Most of them, basically all of them except what was the elf guy's name?
Weehawk.
Weehawk. Yeah,
he's this little green elf.
Yeah,
and you never care about him.
He's not green.
He isn't?
That's him right there. He's just brown. But he's the warrior of the group.
That's not Weehawk. That's just an elf that looks like
Weehawk looks like a generic elf.
Yeah.
So
and that's basically
his voice acting is so flat. Yeah. Like it's really bad.
The voice acting in this is not great.
The voice acting isn't great, but his in particular is noticeably just not emotionally invested. I think the first time he talked, I was like, I'm glad they got Steve from the back room to voice that character.
Yeah.
I think I said that.
You think he has the type of voice that you're like, this is meant to be an introductory character,
yeah,
and then we're gonna move on from
Yes, and he sticks with the group the whole time, and you never
and most you care when you see him develop relationships with
the only part of the movie where I'd say he was approaching anything close to interesting is when he's having to take care of Avatar while they're sneaking into Black Wolf's castle, because Avatar's basically
given up.
He's distraught because he thinks the girl
appears to betray them at some point,
but she was actually corrupted by
brainwashed basically by Black Wolf
through Black Wolf,
and it's kind of
really
implied,
weird, unclear.
It's also kind of implied that he might be trying to impregnate her because he wants to create a perfect human.
There's a scene where he's talking with this
other very
attractive woman designed fairy who she definitely seems like sort of a captive subject.
Yes.
And there's he's discussing with having a human child and
they find out the child that is inside her is not going to be pure, so he's
maybe the next one will be, and she's like, no, don't kill it. They never really come back to that plot thread
until the very end.
It's
kind of weird.
Yeah.
There's a way that plot thread could have been better, and also could have better highlighted the contrast between Black Wolf and
yes, because
Avatar, because Black Wolf has this girl with him, and it's clearly a non-consensual, one is dominating, one is not relationship. Whereas with Avatar and Eleanor, there's a much more give and take, and they're both on the same page.
Yes. I also feel the idea of giving Black Wolf wanting to have a human son and live in the nice part of the world is meant to be a humanizing element to motivate him. But because it's only addressed in that one scene,
it feels very flat.
It doesn't really humanize it.
Yeah. If this movie had maybe had a bit more time, or another pass-through of the script.
Or better use of time, less time expositionizing in the beginning, and more time getting to the characters and stuff.
And so they go on this quest. Eleanor and Weehawk are very distrustful of Peace because he tried to kill them first. But as they go on, the three learn to trust each other. They eventually get kidnapped by the forest fairies. That's when the group gets split up. They get reunited right before they meet up with the big elf army who is about to attack Black Wolf.
I'm gonna jump back a
Avatar.
Avatar, yes. The scene where he meets his elf comrade.
That's really where we get a lot of humanizing elements for him. Because that's where we get a better picture of this is a guy who used to be a warrior, who used to be stop Black Wolf at any means necessary.
And now he's just tired and he just wants the feud
He just wants peace.
Yeah. And that's why he names the assassin Peace, and that's
why he makes him hate violence so much that like he can't even bring himself to like shoot except for himself.
I think that was the first that was also the first scene where I felt like emotionally invested in anything happening, because before that it was like the characters weren't developed enough. Like this world was an interesting setup, but
the characters
there was nothing anchoring.
And then that leads to the stuff with Eleanor appearing to betray them. She gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
That kind of leads Avatar to this state where he's lower than ever before.
Yeah.
And that leads to the final act where they arrive at Black Wolf's palace. While the Elf army is battling Black Wolf's main forces, Weehawk and Avatar are sneaking into the castle to try and get rid of Black Wolf and rescue Eleanor.
And then we have a great scene where Avatar encounters Black Wolf and is like, just, having the conversation.
They're talking like they know each other because they do. They have a good witty banter between each other.
And it's teasing a final battle, and then
big epic final battle.
Avatar.
He pulls out a gun
and
shoots him in the head.
Not in the head, like in the chest, but he shoots him dead.
It's like the greatest anticlimax ever.
It's a really great anticlimax. It's this sort of like it's not this triumphant hero victory. It's this like. I'm just gonna shoot him, and then it's gonna be
goes against Avatar's whole character.
Because Avatar's whole character was not
using technology, not relying on war.
But I also think there's a certain interesting irony in the fact that he sort of betrays his ideals for a moment there to just end the fighting and the suffering.
And there are ways that it could have worked, or they could have made it more strong. But
I think it does work.
It does. It does work.
I think it could work better.
It could have worked better because they also make it kind of imply that Avatar is when he kills his brother, he's also going to kill himself.
Yeah.
So but he kind of gives up. So by that point, he's basically given up hope on ever being able to see a world of peace.
Yeah.
And then he sees Eleanor and Weehawk. Weehawk
has saved Eleanor. And
he threatens to kill her, but then she tells him that she was brainwashed.
Yeah, she was brainwashed.
I also think that scene could have worked better. If instead of being brainwashed, she had been kidnapped. Maybe because Black Wolf found out that Eleanor was with them, and she's like, "Oh, she might be able to give me a human son."
Which, to be clear, they never specifically state that's their plan.
But you have to assume so.
But you kind of. That, that's the logical assumption you go to.
And then you could instead have Weehawk threaten the mother.
Yeah.
But then Eleanor could stand up for her.
Fairy,
by being she wants no part of this. It's just a child.
And that would establish the
because Weehawk does end up showing her mercy at the end, which is a kind of a good way of building up this arc where Weehawk has been very gung ho. But this was the one moment he showed mercy, and it actually rewarded him.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, that's basically the end of the movie.
When I said the end scene could have worked better, it worked, but it could have worked better. I think that's a good description of the movie as a whole.
It's really interesting. Well, but it could have worked so much better.
And it works well enough. But it could be a legitimate classic masterpiece if it had either gotten
had
some refinement.
If they had another pass around of animation tests, another pass around of scripting, or had a sequel where they could do more character development, then it could have been a great sort of anthology series or a great movie. But that's not what we got. So for what we did get, I think we got about as good as we could have hoped for.
I think we got a pretty good, pretty good, interesting.
This was Bakski's first attempt at a fantasy setting, and he would later go on to direct the first film adaptation of Lord of the Rings, which was an animated movie. It also kind of got a mixed reception at first, but has since gotten a really good reception.
I think Bakshi as an artist is probably mixed.
He's a very
skilled.
Yeah, because he's got very good ideas, but he oftentimes either lacks the money or talent to actually implement them. But he's also very avant-garde and willing to take those risks.
He's very So yes, I think we've talked about Wizard.
I think we talked about Wizards.
This is gonna be longer than the last podcast episode
Probably.
we did because I've hit record on this again twice now. We're at where did my phone go? Okay, well, that's
somewhere.
fine. You know what? Whatever. I was just gonna use it to keep time, but we have we've talked for more than an hour.
Yeah. Either way. Definitely recommend.
Definitely recommend. How many?
You can.
6 minutes. Oh, yes. This thing is already running out of batteries. Oh boy.
Oh.
Perhaps we
pause. We shall pause, play some Smash, and then talk about our next 2 movies.
Sounds like a plan.
That's for us, not for
you guys. You guys won't see that coming.
Yes. All right, we're back to talk about Gunhed now. We took a break to collect our thoughts as we did with before we talked about Meet the Feebles. Last week's
Hang on, I need to get my water.
Oh yes. Yeah, and this thing's basically empty, so I'm gonna grab.
This bitch empty.
Actually, which of these water bottles was with? I don't.
It doesn't matter.
Who cares?
Gamer.
As we did last week before we talked about our worst movie, Meet the Feebles. We had to take a break to collect ourselves before this week's worst movie.
I mean, it wasn't like...
Do you think this is this week's worst movie?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But it's not like Meet the Feebles.
It's not
even close to Meet the Feebles.
We talked about Meet the Feebles for 45 minutes. Then we're not talking about this.
I don't even think we could talk about this for 30 minutes.
No. I think this may be one of our shorter topics.
This is... Gunhed is basically Terminator meets...
You just keep talking. I just want to make sure
it's basically Terminator meets aliens, specifically aliens.
The opening, the first act is very aliens. You have a large cast of
multiracial and multi-personality characters
that are clearly disposable.
Very disposable.
But you think the ones in Aliens were disposable?
This is
the first act, and there's a whole group, and all of them except 2 die in that first act.
And the black guy dies.
The black guy dies first, and
within 10
minutes. Yeah.
The only way you could make this...
He dies his death comes before you even meet the main female character.
His death becomes before you even are supposed to realize that something bad is happening in this assembly building.
Yeah, he just kind of dies.
And they don't have any reaction to it.
Not really. But this is just the start of many... This movie is clearly trying to appeal... Does the disc show this? How clearly it's trying to appeal to an American audience?
Kind of.
Half of the dialogue is in English.
There's the secondary main character is
this
white female girl.
Yes.
She speaks
almost entirely in English.
She has one line in Japanese.
Yes, but
there's 2 other native English speakers.
Yes.
So
there's there's this weird, which could be fun, but it's not like English. It's just straight up bland English acting with bland Japanese acting. This movie is the most boring thing we've ever watched. It's the worst
of both worlds.
I never asked this while we were watching it. Do you think this is more boring than The Adventures of Captain Marvel?
Oh god, it is a coin toss.
It really is.
More happens in The Adventures of Captain Marvel?
Which is unbelievable because nothing happens. But Gunhed at least has a budget.
Captain Marvel feels more pointless.
Yes, the Gunhed has a budget behind it at least.
I at least could appreciate some of the robot effects in Gunhed.
They clearly spent way too much money making this basically aliens ripoff. I don't know if there's that much Terminator DNA.
The only Terminator DNA is that
there's a robot cyborg hunter
there's a robot uprising going on in the background, and they're being hunted by
this. Is there a robot uprising?
I don't know.
I think we should start this out with saying just like Wizards and just like Dark Crystal, there's a commonality of all three movies we watched.
There's this big opening monologue to set up the world. The only problem is that it's not the text goes by too fast.
Yes.
The dialogue is not interesting enough.
Gunhed is the worst offender of the three in terms of...
Which is bad because you really need to pay attention to the opening dialogue.
In terms of having a huge opening exposition segment to key you into the world. Wizards and Dark Crystal especially at least have some interesting visual presentation going on. Gunhed literally has a text screen that is not really there, two text screens that aren't really there long enough.
It's a wall of text.
Followed by exposition from a narrator. And followed by a robot fight that is just the same robot fight you see later in the movie, or at least a very similar one.
But with different lighting.
And then followed by more exposition narration.
As the opening credits.
Oh yes, and at this point we were listening to the dub and not the subs.
And we decided to switch over.
Probably our mistake because we could barely hear or understand any of the open.
And they don't have any subtitles for the English dialogue.
No, So we spent the entire movie after that on one hand, maybe this is our fault because maybe we should have been paying more attention during the opening. But on the other hand,
the movie didn't make us want to pay attention to it.
Yes, if your movie starts out with a bucket load of exposition read in a boring narrator voice, all of which is required to understand what's going on.
If your exposition is that important, you need to do a better job of integrating your exposition.
Because we had no idea what the stakes were.
And I don't know if we got the exposition, if we would know better.
I mentioned during the movie that we should go back and watch the first part again once we finished.
And then once we finished, we forgot.
We wanted to go get food as fast as possible. We put the movie on 1.5 speed
in order to get through it faster.
Speed about 50 minutes in of the hour and 40 minutes, was it?
Yeah, because we got hungry and we're like, this. Yeah. And we didn't miss out on anything, and in fact, the viewing experience was made better.
Significantly, because here's the problem with the movie and why it does. There's a lot of reasons it doesn't work, but here's the primary reason it doesn't work. It is slow as hell. Even the giant robot fights that show up at the end are so slow because I was telling this to him. It doesn't feel like they made models of It doesn't
miniature
It feels like they made life-size giant robots that they couldn't get to move any faster than crane machinery at a factory.
It didn't feel like they made small miniature models that they could easily move around and easily place. It felt like they made close to life-size set pieces and animatronics.
And had to move them like you would move factory equipment.
So
watching the robots fight and move around didn't feel like action robot fights. It felt like some weird advanced factory.
Yeah, it felt like
so slow.
It felt we were watching a crane machine and a bulldozer. Gently swipe at each other.
The only parts where I felt like the robot action approached somewhat of almost a level of actual robot action is when Gunhed, the titular robot. Gunhed spelled Gunhed, by the way.
For some reason.
I don't believe we made that clear.
Gunhed.
Gunhed. The only part where I feel like the action was anywhere close to what giant robots should be is when it was in tank form, zooming at an opening. But even that part, we were speeding up a lot.
Yeah, and it was still normal speed.
Yes.
For a normal
we sped up the third act, and unless it was humans moving around, we could barely tell it was sped up.
Yeah.
Because it was now things are...
Everyone was moving in slow motion.
It really, really was slow.
And adding to that problem of it being super slow and poorly paced, there's so much padding.
There's so much padding.
The entire second act is nothing but padding.
So the first act is the part in Aliens where they go into the alien cave for the first time and discover...
But stretched out, it costs 30 minutes instead of 10.
Yes, and it's basically like Aliens in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And all the expendable cast die, and then their mission fails-ish.
Yeah.
And then the second act shows up, which is where things like the first act had some like sort of pseudo-ironic enjoyment a little bit.
Kind of. And then all the main cast dies except for our two leads, this boring male Japanese guy
named Brooklyn.
And this boring female boring female American lady.
Who all of her dialogue, at first it seemed like she was being like, cool and badass when they introduced her.
Cool badass.
But then you realize, no, all of her delivery is just like sultry. It's either sultry or like...
the very dull surprise.
Yeah.
She's like...
Yeah. She's like, oh, okay.
I can't believe you're doing this. You're just doing it for the money.
Yeah, it's just like, and it grates on you. And the second act is where it started to grate on me. Also, the second act replaces all the expendable people who died with two annoying children characters.
It's amazing that one of them managed to be so irritating despite the fact that
yes, one of them was mute, and he was the infinitely more irritating one.
Because he kept gesturing around and
yes, or even though he couldn't speak, I feel like there was some sort of weird... He had some sort of weird tech or something that was making weird noises.
It was
occasionally throughout the movie.
Yeah, I don't know which one it was.
We couldn't tell where the weird noises were coming from, but
at first we thought it was like a special effect thing.
But every once in a while, the characters would just go like, they would have like this and it's like
it's the most irritating thing imaginable.
Irritating. And those characters neither of those kids die. They don't
die. They never do. But they never do
anything important.
They're just there.
At one point, one of them is actively in the way when he's trying to climb the I don't know, computer tower. The setting is unclear.
It's like a multi-tier thing, but they never establish
dystopian.
But they never establish where they start and where they end.
They don't.
They never establish how high it is.
They also they start at the top, I think.
And then they go down
and then after the first act, they get knocked down to the bottom, have to rebuild Gunhed, which that's the whole second act is just these two annoying kids, the dude and the girl, rebuilding Gunhed, and it's painful.
It goes on
slow.
It goes on for like half of the movie.
There's also some subplot about an element called Tex-Mexium, which we only knew was called that because that was the one part of the opening crawl we paid attention to.
And in the robot cyborg, which is trying to kill them,
is trying to retrieve the Tex-Mexium.
And it's got Tex-Mexium written in the top corner.
Locate Tex-Mexium. At one point, he steals the Tex-Mexium crystal from the white girl, and then she disappears from the movie for like 30 minutes.
Was dead.
We thought she was dead. And then she comes back at the end, and we're like, where did you come from?
And that ties into, like, this movie's way of trying to build tension is
by putting a timer on everything. There's a timer for when the big super weapon's gonna go off, which we don't know what it was.
There's a timer for, like, when the big foundation is gonna explode.
There's a timer for how long the robot has to get up the wall. At one point, the Gunhead's he's piloting. Brooklyn is piloting the Gunhed and climbing the wall. There's a timer for
how long.
At the end, there was a timer for something.
That was for when the base is gonna
a self-destruct timer that was like 10 seconds, and that part of the movie gracefully was short because by that point we were ready for it to be over.
Yeah.
And we were fast-forwarding everything at that point. Boring movie.
Like, imagine, like, if I don't know if all of you have seen this, but like, if you have, imagine Dread from that 2010 movie Dread, but like, if you didn't have any clear indication what level Mama was on, or what level Dread was on, or what the distance was between them, like, that is what we're talking about.
It's everything is so unclear, and I've never watched an entire movie and spent the whole movie going, what is happening now? My brain just started hurting after a while.
We should have at least been cared because we didn't know, but we didn't care.
Actually, okay. Oh wait, I don't know where my phone is.
It's charging over there.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna Google a plot synopsis of Gunhed and see if we learn any new things about this movie that we didn't know before.
Because this movie is so bad at exposition. I don't want you guys to think that, like, the movie we're describing is, like,
it's not ironically enjoyable.
It's not even painfully bad. It is painfully boring.
So boring.
It It is the most bored I think I have ever been.
Gunhed is a 1989 Japanese science fiction action film directed by Masato Harada.
Oh, by the way, the rumor has it this was a test script. This was like
originally
a fan-submitted script for a Godzilla movie.
Which I have absolutely no idea how.
I don't know how this could have possibly been a Godzilla movie.
Okay, in the early 30s, a new material called Tex-Mex.
The movie that they made instead of this one for Godzilla was Godzilla vs. Biollante, which is considered one of the best.
Chiron 5. This kind of explains the setting. During the year 2005, the Cybortech company, which we kept seeing that logo.
We thought that's the one behind the robot.
They built one of the most advanced robotics development facilities upon a small Asian island.
Yeah, that's
controlled by a highly advanced AI system, Chiron 5. The AI ran the island for 20 years till it came to realize humanity wasn't needed and began to use their own technologies to rebel. The Great Robot War began. We don't see any of this Great Robot War.
Well, they tell us about it.
That would be more interesting than what actually happened.
They tell us about it, and then they show us like a 5-second clip of those two robots.
To quell Chiron 5's insurrection. So I think the setting was basically the tower, the computer tower of Chiron 5. The Allied powers dispatched a Gunhed battalion in an attempt to stop Chiron 5. However, it was being protected by a powerful guardian aerobot. I think that was the battle we saw at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which was not the same battle as the end, I don't think, but they
so similar they
reused so many shots that it might as well have been.
Yeah.
Main events. The year is now 2038. The scavenger crew of the Marianne has infiltrated the island and begins their mission to scavenge computer chips.
It's Alien.
Yeah,
from that point on, it's Alien.
From that point on, it's aliens, but not scary enough or action-packed enough.
Oh, there's also this weird thing where, like, one of the friends of the main Japanese guy, like, gets attacked by the weird bio-android thing that's the main villain, and, like, gets somehow her essence absorbed into it.
Okay,
but it's never made clear why or how.
This article also doesn't make it clear who sent the biodroid or where that came from.
And we never cared about her before, and we don't care about her after. So, but like they keep trying to build this like it's like this emotional revelation.
Aerobot. Okay, so Aerobot's the monster, the robot that destroys things, knocked them back to the beginning.
Okay.
To be discovered by the sole surviving children of the original human custodians of Chiron 5. This would be the annoying children.
The annoying
which
children.
are like, so you know Aliens has Newt, the kid that's still there, that's running. It's like Newt, but if she was two characters and they were both awful.
Yeah.
Like Newt is shockingly not annoying and like a great character.
Yeah.
These two are, their names are 7 and 11.
7-Eleven. Oh, there's also a really
There's a weird Pepsi Cola product placement.
It's a really painful and obnoxious one.
By chance, at the robot graveyard, Brooklyn found the remains of Gunhed. So Gunhed got destroyed by Aerobot years before. And so the movie plot is rebuilding Gunhed and using it to climb back to the top and stop Aerobot. But there's also this whole subplot about the Tex-Mexium and the biodroid, and none of it really makes sense.
None of it makes sense. None of it really...
Reading this does not help me understand it well enough that I think that I do not feel bad about having not paid attention at the beginning.
The robot war...
This still doesn't make sense.
The robot war thing is just a backdrop. It's not the main focus. The Tex-Mexium is just
reception. Let's see the reception. I did look at this already.
It was dire.
Derivative of films by Ridley Scott and James Cameron.
Yeah.
Described Gunhed as hokey and critiqued cheesy dialogue, unflashy effects, and a bland pop synth soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like cheesy Japanese idea of what American action movie dialogue is like in here, and some of it was ironically funny, but most of it was
just bad.
Yeah, and it was also like probably only ironically funny because I was so desperate for anything even remotely having life.
Why did the main character keep eating cheese?
What were those? They were like cheese sticks. He kept eating like cheese. The last shot of the movie was him eating a cheese stick. Like
why?
I'm not even sure if they were cheese sticks. They were just weird orange like blocks.
Weird cute.
Can I Google this? What is
the main character Gunhed eating?
Stop. Shh. What is the main character eating?
In Gunhed.
There's no way I'm gonna get any results. No one has seen this movie. Gunhed. Gunhed. Watch Gunhed on Prime Video. Gunhed B-Movie Review. Badmovies.org.
Gunhed.
Okay, this is worthless.
Anyway,
nobody's seen this movie and nobody should. It's terrible.
It's bad.
Rug Cop. If you're gonna watch a Japanese live-action movie, watch the one we watched last time.
Watch Rug Cop.
Rug Cop's good. Gunhed is boring garbage.
Do not watch this movie.
Like, it's literally just aliens, but if it were dull.
You have so many better options. If you want to watch watch giant robots fighting each other, watch
half of all the media Japan has made. You'll enjoy it more.
Watch literally any other piece of Japanese media.
We were yelling at the end. We're like, how is the giant robot fighting boring?
That's what you're supposed to be good at, Japan. If you want to watch,
I understand the aliens derivative stuff being lame, but even the giant robot fights.
If you want to watch something that's like Aliens, just watch Aliens. If you want to watch something that's like
honestly, I'd say even watch like the Alien sequels that nobody likes that come after Aliens.
Yeah.
You could get more out of that than Gunhed.
If you want to watch a movie that has an interesting war against robots as the backdrop, just watch Terminator. There is no reason to watch this movie.
Gunhed. It's too boring to exercise.
It's just too boring to exercise.
I feel like so far every podcast we've had good movie,
bad movie, bad movie.
Yeah.
This is the movie that has been both boring and bad.
Oh yes, Gunhed.
Boringly bad.
I thought you had picked up Dark Crystal for a second.
No.
Like, what?
That leads us to our last movie.
The Dark Crystal.
The Dark Crystal. Directed by
Frank Oz and Jim Henson.
This was Jim Henson's passion project after he finished work on The Muppet Show. This is what he planned. This is what he spent years trying to make.
It's a high fantasy puppet.
Yeah, it's high fantasy puppets. If you don't know, if you haven't watched...
It's become something of a cult classic.
Yeah, it's become a cult classic. It's gotten a prequel, I think, a prequel show on Netflix. If you don't know...
The puppetry is incredible.
Yeah, if you don't know the premise, it's a high fantasy puppet show. It's high fantasy with puppets. It's set in this universe where there's this powerful dark crystal. At some point, it gets shattered.
When the three suns aligned or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is this movie's opening narration.
And this movie had probably the best opening narration because you actually liked the
it's just the visuals
are very interesting.
Good voice actor.
The visuals were very interesting and the voice actor sounded engaged, which made you engaged.
Honestly, the visuals carry so much of the movie because after we were done watching it, the plot is almost as bare bones fantasy.
It's even more bare bones than the Wizards.
Yes, it's a chosen one story.
It's a chosen one story with almost no deviations.
Almost no deviations. I feel like, at least for the first part of the movie, the most interesting stuff I had was just watching the race of. When the Dark Crystal split,
it created two races.
The Mystics just split into two.
Yeah, there was
Mystics, the peace-loving race
that's like giant, kind of like humpback birds with like forearms, and then the Skeksis, which are
also
lizard-like birds that have rotting flesh.
Yes,
and stuff.
They're very gross and. Watching them just be gross and watching there's one particular bird who there's a subplot about him being exiled because he lost the duel to become the They spend a lot of time on it in the beginning of the movie and then it ends up not being very important for the remainder of the movie. But for the start of the movie, that was
and it opens with that and on the Skeksis, it opens on the scene of them watching their emperor die, and then when it cuts back to them, we see them having a duel to the death.
Yes, they're all power hungry, grabbing for power.
Basically, and there's a scene where they rip off the guy who failed the tests clothes and stuff, and it's you get to see the puppet underneath, and it was so weird.
Yeah, well, but it's so impressive. There's really no signs that
none of this looks cheap.
Yes,
every puppet looks fantastic.
Yes,
and the Skeksis are the
there's so many full body size just incredibly interesting looking like creatures.
They're like the type of puppets that's like you would need someone inside to operate manually.
Well, there's all, but then they're so with scale,
and they're so intricately, and they move so elaborately and intricately. It's like you have to like. Is this like a 2-person job? Is this a 3-person job? How many people have to operate a single puppet?
Yeah, the puppetry. Everything of the puppets is like almost unrivaled. Even anything else Jim Henson Co. has done.
Like I'm trying to think the puppets in Pan's Labyrinth. I don't think are as good as these.
This is some like
Muppets don't have as
Dark Crystal also has
puppets.
Like Labyrinth has humans. Dark Crystal has no humans.
It's all
it's all puppetry, and it's all like incredible puppetry. Which does so much to carry.
It carries this movie.
What would otherwise be probably a pretty mediocre fantasy.
Good, interesting setting, not interesting story.
I'll say the world building. It's a less like weirdly uneven package than Wizards,
but also less compelling.
But yes, less compelling. The world is more immediately like clearly established. There's less like too complex stuff going on like in Wizards and Gunhed. Yeah.
There's a bunch of like different fantasy races aside from the Mystics and Skeksis. Like
but they're introduced over time.
Yeah.
It's not like a 10-minute opening.
They're introduced over time, and each time we get like a few minutes setting up their world, and then we move on.
And honestly, that whole world part of it is so interesting that I think that's what makes the generic story.
That makes the generic story hurt more, is because like you've got this interesting world.
And just like the main character, who's this chosen one, who's the Gelfling, he's just like boring.
Which is a shame because he's got this underneath. He's got this interesting story of being the last of his race because the Skeksis, fearing the prophecy that a Gelfling would lead to their downfall, killed all the Gelflings except for him. And another girl.
And he meets a female Gelfling throughout the story.
And it's like, there's an interesting undertone there of being, we're the last of our race. We've lost our culture. What does this mean?
They just don't really explore it.
They don't really explore it enough, and they're just too flat and boring to actually have that
characters
to have interest, to get interest out of them.
And I didn't like hate them, but it's just like the whole movie I knew
they did nothing for us.
I was waiting for some kind of cool, interesting twist to come along, and
twist
it just never really
or some interesting edge to them, where it's like maybe they have like a weird personality quirk.
And I think if it had something like that, it would probably be. It wouldn't be a cult classic. It would be considered an all-time classic.
Yeah.
But because of the incredibly genericness of the story, there's not a lot to admire outside of just this meticulously crafted puppet world.
Yeah, it's just the main plot is just a journey to bring reunite the crystals.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you will reunite the Mystics and the Skeksis. Mm-hmm. That's probably the most interesting part of the movie is
how the Mystics and the Skeksis are linked.
Yeah,
you think at first they're two separate races, but then you start seeing
like similarities.
Skeksis get hurt, and then the Mystics.
And you notice that like the Skeksis underneath all their clothes have like a second set of arms hidden away, and the Mystics have 4 arms. They have 2 sets and then another 2 sets.
So you start to realize that like, these are kind of just the same race.
You think maybe
maybe good and bad versions.
Yeah, maybe you think at first they're like, maybe they're like split, like they were like the same race and then they evolved differently. But then it's like, oh no, they were literally split.
And they're like linked, like each.
They're psychically
linked. At one point, a Skeksis dies, and then a Mystic disappears. As their
and it's seeing the contrast of these two so similar, like aesthetically, races and how differently they interact is very interesting. Because you have the Mystics who are like they're very respectful of death. They're like it's time when it's time to go.
They're peace-loving.
They're peace-loving. They honor each other, and then when the Skeksis die, it becomes a mad grab for power.
Yeah. I think that's like, I don't know what the Netflix show Dark Crystal Age of Resistance
I have to imagine
is
it has either I have to imagine it either takes place immediately after the Dark Crystal split or before the Dark Crystal split.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I feel like that has the potential, because like the world building, there's a lot you can add to this world.
Yeah.
Like Wizards, it's something that I think would benefits from the expansion of its world.
And thankfully it got that expansion.
Yeah, Dark Crystal is actually popular enough to have got Wizards will probably never.
Wizards did as well as it possibly could have, considering it was like an adult-oriented animated movie in the late 70s that came out the same week as Star Wars.
And Dark Crystal is... I don't know if I'd say Dark Crystals is that adult-oriented.
It's family. I'd say it's family-oriented in the sense that it's got stuff that will appeal to kids, but it's also got a lot of more interesting things for adults.
I'd say it has that nice sort of 80s, it's made for kids, but there's stuff. It's not pixel like squeaky clean.
Yeah, it's got stuff there that parents or adults would also find interesting. But I would definitely say this is if a kid watched this, it would blow their freaking minds.
Yeah, I think if I had watched it, if you were somebody who watched this as a kid and loved it and watched it a bunch, and it's like a classic for you. I totally get that.
Yeah,
that's where the cult classic status comes from.
I could totally see why kids would absolutely love
this. But watching it as an adult,
you notice
that the plot is
has not grown up in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that being said, just as a work of art and as a work of craftsmanship,
as a passion project, I have nothing but respect for the people who made this movie.
Absolutely.
I would definitely recommend picking it up at some point if you get your hands on it.
So, okay, do we need to exercise anything? I realized that we've reached the end of our segment. I suppose
we could re-exercise Meet the Feebles.
We don't have it anymore. We took it back to the movie store.
Hang on, wait a second. I'll see if there's a movie we can exercise over here.
Okay. Or we could just exercise. No, scary movie's too boring to exercise.
Scary movie's too boring to exercise.
We don't need to exercise.
Quick, entertain them on camera.
We don't need to exercise something we haven't talked about. Let's just
say
we can exercise the Gunhed demon from Gunhed, and then
Gunhed, you really don't deserve to be exercised, but we're gonna
We're gonna give it to you because we're feeling nice.
Gunhed, you have committed atrocities against mankind.
The atrocities of being incredibly boring.
You have sold your soul for avarice, for greed, and for what was the result? Pain.
Dude, I think
death. Boring.
Honestly, if we're gonna be exercising any of these, we really should be exercising cats.
Yeah, you're right.
I think
we should.
I think we spent longer talking about cats. We're going vlog style. I think we spent longer talking about cats than we did talking about Dark Crystal or Gunhed.
Pretend that this
is cats.
Is cats. Cats. You have committed unspeakable atrocities against mankind. You have sold your soul for avarice, for greed, and it has reaped seeds of disgust,
of fear, and uncanny valley,
disgust, destruction, and unspeakable uncanny valley-ness. What do you have to say for yourself before I strike you down and purge your demons, foul beasts?
A cat is not a dog!
Avast ye! Fear!
Fear! Fear!